Imagine a cold, snowy day where two massive armies, both from the same country, clash in what would become the deadliest battle in English history. This is the story of the Battle of Towton, a day when over 50,000 men fought to determine who would rule England. It was a battle so brutal, the snow turned red with blood. Stay tuned as we explore the epic battle that changed the fate of the country forever. Before we dive in, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating historical stories like this one. The Battle of Towton was part of a much bigger conflict known as the War of the Roses. It wasn't a war between two countries, but rather a civil war between two rival royal families, the House of Lancaster and the House of York. The Lancastrians had a red rose as their symbol, while the Yorkists were represented by a white rose. The struggle for the throne had been going on for years, tearing England apart. The Lancastrians, led by King Henry VI, were in power, but Henry was a weak ruler. Many people believed that Edward of York, the leader of the Yorkist faction, was the rightful king. Tensions had been growing for years, and by 1461, both sides were ready to settle the matter once and for all. Edward of York was young, strong, and ambitious. He had already won several battles, including the Battle of Mortimer's Cross earlier in 1461. Edward was determined to claim the throne, and he knew the only way to do that was by defeating the Lancastrians once and for all. By March 1461, Edward's forces were marching north to confront King Henry VI's army. The stakes were incredibly high. Whoever won this battle would likely control the future of England. It was a make-or-break moment for both sides. As Edward's army approached Towton, a small village in North Yorkshire, they knew they were about to face a fight that would go down in history. The date was March 29, 1461. Palm Sunday. The weather was brutal, snow was falling heavily, and the wind was howling across the battlefield. Over 50,000 men stood ready to fight, each knowing that this battle would be one of the bloodiest and most important in English history. The Yorkists, led by Edward, had one small advantage: the wind was blowing the snow into the faces of the Lancastrians, making it hard for them to see. Edward's archers took advantage of this, firing arrows into the blizzard, while the Lancastrian archers struggled to aim. The battlefield was quickly covered with bodies, but the worst was yet to come. After the archers ran out of arrows, both sides charged into close combat, fighting with swords, spears, and axes. The snow beneath their feet turned to mud, mixed with blood. It was a brutal, chaotic scene, thousands of men locked in a deadly struggle for survival. The fighting raged on for hours. The Lancastrians had the advantage of numbers, and they were starting to push the Yorkists back. It seemed like Edward of York might lose not only the battle but his claim to the throne. But just when things looked their worst for the Yorkists, reinforcements arrived. The Duke of Norfolk, a key ally of Edward, brought fresh troops to the battlefield. These new soldiers breathed life back into the Yorkist army. With their help, Edward's forces began to push the Lancastrians back. As the Lancastrian army started to retreat, chaos erupted. Many soldiers tried to flee across the nearby rivers, but in their panic, the bridges collapsed under the weight of the fleeing men. Trapped by the river and the advancing Yorkists, many Lancastrians were either cut down or drowned in the freezing water. By the end of the day, the battlefield was littered with the dead. It's estimated that around 28,000 men lost their lives in the Battle of Towton, more than half of the soldiers who fought that day. This made it the bloodiest battle in English history. The Battle of Towton was a huge victory for Edward of York. With the Lancastrian forces defeated, Edward was crowned King Edward IV just a few weeks later. King Henry VI, along with his wife, Margaret of Anjou, fled into exile. It seemed like the Yorkists had won the War of the Roses, at least for the time being. However, the war wasn't truly over. The fighting would continue for many more years as the Lancastrians and Yorkists battled for control of the throne. But Towton was a key turning point. It marked the beginning of Edward IV's reign and changed the course of English history. The fields of Towton are peaceful today, but in 1461, they were the site of unimaginable horror and bloodshed. The Battle of Towton is a reminder of how fierce the fight for power can be, and how much it can cost. If you enjoyed learning about this incredible moment in history, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. We have so many more fascinating stories from history to share with you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.